Hi, my name is Jeff Sipe, and I have over 10 years of recruiting experience, including 5 years at Google. In today's video, I want to talk about estimation questions. So if you're a product manager, a program manager, or going in and interviewing for a consultant role, there's a good chance you'll get an estimation question. And in this video, we're going to cover answers to these questions, provide some sample ideas, and stay tuned to the end. There's a lot of steps here, but they're all important. So what is an estimation question anyway? It's your ability to estimate a value. That's simple. And it typically is going to fall into one of three buckets. It's going to focus on market sizing, it's going to focus on a revenue estimation, or it's going to be a more simplistic estimate the weight of, the size of, etc. And so these are very similar to open-ended questions. They are open-ended, so they're going to test thought process. They're going to test your communication skills, ability to problem solve, ability to navigate ambiguity, how you use logic and reason, how you manage your time and stay organized, your ability to definitely be creative and show original thought, and then ultimately solve a complex question. So step one, basic info. This is really unique. This is going to be one of the few questions where you're really going to want to know some basic data, which falls into a few categories. One, population. Know the population of the biggest countries in the world. Know the population of some of the largest cities in the world, largest cities in the US. Know some US stats, average number of people per household, dogs, cats, life expectancy. Know revenue of top tech companies and top retailers. And then just know size, weight, volume. So what's the average size, weight, and volume of a car, for instance, a four-door sedan, for instance. And then lastly, what's going to be really important is company specific. So if you're interviewing at Google, know more about their product space, Android, Chromebooks, home, etc. Just have the relevancy piece because it will likely come up in the interview. Step two, practice. I like there's two really different ways you can approach the practice for this. I think 20 questions. It sounds like a lot, but tackle 10 without doing step one. Don't have any basic data, see how you do without that basic data, and then answer 10 utilizing that basic data. Two things will happen. The first 10, you'll have to be a little bit more creative, and then the second 10, you'll see how having that additional basic knowledge really helps you. And remember, focus on different types of questions, so the basic ones, the market sizing one, and ultimately the revenue estimation questions. Step three, you're in the interview, go to the whiteboard. You are going to have to write these items down anyway. Don't write them down on a piece of paper. If you have the chance, go to the whiteboard and start whiteboarding everything out. It will be a visual aid for you and for your interviewer. Step four, ask clarifying and follow-up questions. So you start by reiterating the question, and then you're really digging in and asking as many follow-up questions as possible. So let's take a real simplistic example. Estimate the weight of a school bus. So some follow-up questions might be, on Earth, in the US, is it a double-decker, regular, short bus? What year was it built? Does it have a bathroom on it? Does it have storage above? Does it have storage below? Are there individual seats or is it bench seating? Are there people on the bus? Are they kids? Are they adults? Is it a mix? Is the bus full? Is there a driver? Is there additional equipment on the bus? Is the gas tank full? This is a lot, and some of it's ridiculous. On Earth, right? Of course, that seems obnoxious, but maybe it gets your interviewer to smile. School buses in different countries do look different, and don't make the assumption that there aren't double-decker buses, that those double-deckers don't have bathrooms on them, for instance, in other countries, and so on and so forth. Just really be throwing everything out there because, again, you might get your interviewer to be thinking about it a little bit more, and you might get them to laugh, and ultimately it's just showing thought process. So after you've done this step five, make assumptions. Eventually, whether your interviewer answered your questions or not, you're going to have to make some assumptions. So let's assume the interviewer didn't answer any of your questions. So, okay, Sue, let's say it's a regular size school bus located in the US, built within the last few years, and knowing that if it's built in the last few years, maybe the materials are a little lighter, a little better, right? It's carrying fifth graders, it's full with no additional equipment, gas tank is full, and there's a driver on the bus. Why fifth graders, for example? Because the variance gets a lot smaller when you focus on one age group as opposed to a football team carrying equipment, etc. Now you could remove this complexity from your answer, but if you add one or two additional complex details, it just shows that you're willing to challenge yourself a little bit more. Again, that's going to be up to you, but you have to make these assumptions. And then that's a good segue into step 6. You have to define your solution. What does this mean? You are going to literally outline for your interviewer, okay, based on my assumptions, I'm going to take X with X with X, and then I'm going to come up with my total number. And so you're really outlining how you're going about and solving it. Why? Because it's just talking out loud, it's communicating. Again, it's thought process, a consistent theme for these questions. Step 7, small sample size. So for the school bus, this isn't really applicable, but for the revenue and market size questions, taking a smaller sample size is going to be really beneficial because you want to start working with small numbers and then times it times 10, times it times 100, and multiples of 10 are really easy. So if you get a US question, for example, Michigan is such a great state to use because there's about 10 million people that live in Michigan. So use that as your sample and build from there. It will make it much, much easier. And then again, at the end of the question, you're taking these smaller numbers and timesing them out. And then you're not using big math and you're not wasting your time doing math. You're keeping it really simple. And that's another good segue into step 8, rounding. Don't try and work with crazy numbers. Multiples of 10 are going to be really easy. I have done a lot of practice estimation questions with my clients, and the more complex their numbers, the more time they spend doing math. And you don't want to spend time doing math. An estimation question is exactly that. It's an estimate. So use round, easy numbers. It will really, really help you. Step 9, personalize. So many times we understand information in correlation to the way that we've experienced the world. So especially estimation questions around consumption. For example, estimate how many cheeseburgers the average US citizen eats. Well, you're going to personalize that to yourself and say, okay, I'm either middle of the road, I'm high end, I'm low end, I'm not on that at all because I don't eat cheese, so I don't eat cheeseburgers, I eat hamburgers, I don't eat meat, so you have to segment out that portion of the population. But if you start personalizing it, it's not only going to help you start to create the answer, but then you're going to start to think about the other variables, and it's really, really going to help you. Step 10, solve. So ultimately, you're taking your assumptions, you're taking all these variables, you've personalized it, and you're coming up with your answer. And quickly, you're going to put the numbers together, and you're going to say, Sue, this is my number. Step 11, you are going to sanity check that number. And so if you come up with a school bus weighing 100,000 pounds, if you come up with 842 cheeseburgers per person in the US, you've overestimated, right? So you need to go back and say, actually, now thinking about this number, I would say the school bus with all those kids and everything in it, let's put it at 35,000 pounds, or let's put the average number of cheeseburgers at 50 a person per year, whatever it's going to be. Sanity check it. Just don't go with your number because the numbers make sense for that answer or add up to that answer. Sanity check it and say, actually, no, this does sound right or it doesn't sound right. That will really help your interviewer connect with you and make you sound real. And step 12 is just talk a little bit about some of the limitations that you came up with in your assumptions. Oh, I forgot that people don't eat cheese. I should have factored that in. Instantly, that would chop the number by 20%. Or I forgot about vegetarians and vegans or pescatarians, right? So that would chop it by another 20%. Let's just call it 50%, and let's cut that number from 842 to, cut that in half. And then other variables, like I didn't think about other types of burgers? Like, were we just talking about beef burgers? Are we talking about veggie burgers? Or again, any type of limitation or variable that you saw with your answer, bring that up. It's going to be so valuable. These questions are tough. This is a longer video. These are a lot of steps, but a lot of these steps, you're going to work them together. They're not going to be separate. The best thing you can do is practice. These questions are tough. Know a little bit of that basic info, and you'll do great. Good luck. Thanks.